Good morning. This is Talking Devils, your favourite Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by Manchester United legend Paul Parker to talk over another difficult week at Manchester United. And at least United lost both games, so I didn't have to change the intro. How are you doing, Paul? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Wayne. Really good.
Good, good. Please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to get your questions and comments in. If you're watching the replay, say hello. We do still reply to comments as well, so feel free to jump in the comment section. If you're listening back on the audio podcast as well, be sure to subscribe and give us a review of the platform you're listening on. A lot of great stuff on the podcast over the last week. Mark, who's our post-match podcast host, he did a great job with two great panels following two very difficult results to talk about. Reese and Stu on there I've got to give a mention to because they both did great. I talked to former United player Marcus Neymar after the Liverpool defeat, and Keane also hosted a great show with Lee Lawrence and Phil Marsh on Thursday night, reacting to the news about Ten Hag. Then Reese had a great podcast with an Ajax podcaster, Sabe, on Saturday night to tell us a little bit more what we might expect from Ten Hag. And just a heads up as well, we'll be adding lots more of that sort of content into our audio podcast feed from next season. So, Paul, I guess the best place to start is before we start about the Eric Ten Hag was confirmed last week. Obviously, a bit of good news after the bad news of the Liverpool defeat. A little bit of softening the blow a little bit, although I don't think many United fans saw past that. Taking all that aside, I mean, it's taken 6 months to get this appointment. Ten Hag was one of the favourites when Solskjaer was sacked. He's become the manager now. Obviously, it's good to have him in place for the start of the new season. We've already talked about all the ramifications that could have. In the sort of like 4 or 5 months between Solskjaer being sacked and now, people who didn't know much about Ten Hag have had an opportunity to find a lot more about him. So, what's your thoughts on Eric Ten Hag being named United manager?
I can't personally come out and say he's going to do great, he's going to do bad, but I just like to think that he's actually going to be able to manage the team in the sense of not be like an everyday coach and just coach and not have a say on who's coming in and who's going out. So in theory, you're going to get a manager who's going to be able to manage old school way of managing. That when he's actually there and he's coaching, he's working with the players that he wants rather than who the club wants, who suits their agenda. The agenda that should be looked after the most is the one on the pitch. That's the one where everything starts from, everything's built on.
Yeah,
So I really hope that what we was reading about, a lot of it about the things that he wanted to be able to do when he's a Manchester United manager, is the truth really, that he's taken the job on and he's going to come in and be the first manager since Sir Alex to be able to manage the team in the way he wants. And if he doesn't want a player, it doesn't matter how much he's worth, what he's cost to come in, or how much he's worth in shirt sales. If he's not improving the team, or he's not good enough for the team, he's got to go. Bringing people who are going to make the team better rather than the person who can sell a jersey. So that's all that I'm hoping for. I'm not going to try and come up with all this, what a lot of people are doing now, that they've known this fellow, from the day he was born.
yeah,
I'm just going to say that I really don't know. Have I gone chasing it? No, because what matters most is what he does when he walks into that job in the summer and what he does after. Not about what he done at Ajax. That's irrelevant, to be perfectly honest, because he's going into a completely different arena with a
yeah,
different kind of football and a different kind of mentality.
yeah, absolutely. We've got a comment already from Gary Cook. He says, "Morning. Do you think that the players who are still under contract can improve with the new manager and coaches, or is it too late and they need to move on? For example, Wan-Bissaka and Dalot." I mean, it's a good question, Paul. Obviously, we've got to be split on this, right? Some players will and some players won't. I mean, it's the big question is, can the one? I think most of us would accept that maybe none of these players will be in a title-winning side, but what's left for them is to sort of be part of a squad that's challenging for a title or major trophies, right? So it's a big question for these players now. Do you think that is there room for any of this squad really to have a long-term future for United?
I think we have to say the vast majority of them have played under a few managers and they haven't stepped forward. So another manager coming in, for me, doesn't really make a lot of difference. They could be, we keep reading about there was a few players who weren't happy with him being named as manager, which I don't know why people want to write things like that. And why, where's this come from? I've been at club when I was at QPR, and a few managers, were sacked while I was there. But I'd put my hand on my heart and say that I never once come out and said I didn't want him. At the end of the day, you get someone and you deal with it from there. But I just hope that the players go for it and they actually have a go. But the person who sent that in, I can understand what you're saying, Dallo and Wan-Bissaka. I think there could be a chance of Wan-Bissaka. He's a young lad. His attitude has been absolutely perfect when he's come in. As I mentioned before, when his name came up, he hasn't sulked. He's got on and tried his best. And it's about a manager coming in and knowing his strengths and can he work on his strengths. People say, we can't kick with his right foot. He needs to work on his right foot. What a load of rubbish. Ryan Giggs could not. His right foot was awful. He never was balanced on his right side, but his left foot was absolutely amazing, as you know, Wayne. And Ryan's strength was always that. Messi, no different. Maradona, no different. Pele, no different. So why are people getting their head that that you got strength for that, you got strength for that? Why don't you just work on your strength you've got already and then really, really improve that one? And I'll tell you what, it covers over cracks. David Beckham, no left foot.
Yeah.
No left foot. So Wan-Bissaka has got a chance with the new man coming in. It'll be a fresh start for him, as Dallo, but I think Wan-Bissaka is the right back with more potential. And I would look at it that Manchester United defensively have been poor. Can you use Wan-Bissaka's strength as a defender to make the defence better? And I wasn't the best attacking. I mean, I had to learn to become a fullback again when I went to Manchester United. But I'll tell you what, I was fortunate that in the way we played, we had 6 very good attacking players. So the back four generally played as a back four. Well, now, everyone's going mad that you've got to attack. Why? If you've got people in front of you who can make and score goals, whatever you can add to that, as far as I'm concerned, is still a bonus, Wayne.
Yeah. One person who can create is Christian Eriksen. We've got a quick question from Ben Allen here. Eriksen's being linked with United. Surely, if his health is okay, would it be worth bringing in a good footballer? I mean, Paul, I do remember a couple of years ago when Spurs when his contract was winding down at Spurs, and obviously they were looking to sell him. I'm sure we had these conversations, but maybe it's a different kettle of fish now. Like the fact that at the time it would have been spending a lot of money, first in his transfer fee, secondly in wages, and now obviously with his health and everything that happened at the World Cup, the whole outlook has changed, and he's obviously done quite well at Brentford. Do you see him as a solution, or is it time to sort of maybe get someone younger, a different profile of player, basically?
It's always got to get someone younger if you're going to go and spend a lot of money, because you've got to look at a kind of a residual value. And always in football, that comes when the younger they are and they've done well or they're doing well, you're going to get better value back. But if you're going to talk about someone experienced, then Christian Eriksen falls into that category. Still reasonably mobile, still very, very good with the ball, but it's about the players around him. He suits Brentford. Brentford have got Mboma, who is a good athlete, who will always will force a pass from Eriksen because he's willing to make the run. Ivan Toney will make the run and play in there. At this moment, United maybe haven't got the players that can maybe make a difference with Eriksen in there because none of them want to run. Rashford doesn't want to run. Even Elanga has done well, but he needs, in a certain way, he needs to maybe a manager who's going to talk to him about his game, because he's falling into the trap of thinking that every time he's tackled, it's a foul. Wants to go down too easy, so he's learning the wrong things, and that may come about with the wrong people around. So Ericsson for me is somebody I do like, but I've just got that funny feeling, just by what you read about him, you look at him, everything about him says to me he's loyal, and I think he'll look at that manager who's Danish himself. He's got 5 teammates who are Danish. Within that squad. I believe that he will do another season at Brentford, because he'll take it upon himself to say they made a big point of bringing me in. He's been well looked after, and I think he'll stick with them.
Yeah, good. Good point. We have a comment in from Jason who talks about the fullbacks and the centre backs. I want to get to that in a moment, because obviously Dalot didn't have a great game against Arsenal defensively. Attacking, he did quite well actually. But before we get to that, let's talk about Anfield. Paul, even before talking about Liverpool, the game, I want to go back in time. There's a different kettle of fish when you were playing, but I'm right in saying, aren't I, that before games at Anfield, Sir Alex would take you to an hotel. I mean, he'd take you to Goodison on the day of the game, but before Anfield, it'd be a case of getting an hotel the night before and staying local. It was basically, the point I'm saying is, it was treated as a different game because everyone knew it was different, right? That's the attitude that was taken with it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just making the point there because you played your part in 3 league titles. You're at the start of that road where, United were knocking Liverpool off the perch. You're basically part of the fabric of the history, that long road. I mean, like, after you, there was Neville, there was Raphael, there's Wes Brown, John O'Shea, all playing that right back as United were accumulating the titles and getting past Liverpool. Obviously, it's got to be a massive source of pride in your own career that you're a part of that system, basically. And then you see a group of players do what they did last week at Anfield, which is basically a surrender when they're closing in on the 20th title, which is, everything that you guys fought for and played for, all that history, and they just laid down and didn't show anything. How disappointing is it? I'm not talking about the game itself, but disappointing from a professional who's been part of that and they've seen what's happened at Anfield.
Oh, well, it is. It's everything about it. We have to say this squad of players just seem to want to surrender. If things are okay, they'll get by if they can get themselves in front. There's nothing there to suggest any of these players would have got in any title-winning teams. There isn't any of them. And people say, "Oh yeah, but Ronaldo." But we all know about Ronaldo, but we have to talk about Ronaldo as he is now. As he is now, not talk about him as yesteryear. But it's just a general attitude, and he's been dragged into it as well. And with all these players, you can't, as much as you want to take certain players away, they're all in it together. When it comes to it, you win and you lose together. But these group of players, and you just see it. It's just everything about them, and it was all summed up in that first half, just the way they were. The second half, there was a little bit of belief when Sancho come on. You saw a difference there. Sancho was brave enough to take the game on, but he was let down on 3 or 4 occasions by Marcus Rashford. Badly let down, and Marcus Rashford then had the gall then just to jog back, shrugging his shoulders. It was awful to watch, awful to commentate on. I really just one of them games. I wasn't looking forward to working on it. I really wanted to at half time not even try and analyse, because I just knew what it was going to be. I couldn't be positive, because if I'd have been positive, I'd have been questioned, to be perfectly honest. So that's where we are with Manchester United at the moment. And if they're all sitting there doing MUTV, well, MUTV has to be honest, and it has to allow the people talking on it to be honest as well, because you can't pick out anything from what's been going on in that Liverpool game, and even the Arsenal game. You can talk about certain bits of it that United were the better team going forward, but you can't wear rose tinted glasses anymore. Reality has to step in because the fans will not be fooled.
No, they definitely weren't at Anfield. I don't want to even talk about Paul Pogba anymore. I was going to bring it up, but I'm going to move on from that because I've talked about it so often. Talk about Arsenal. You talked about United were the better team going forward in parts, and honestly, I thought apart defensively, obviously we were horrendous for the first 10 minutes, and maybe from 10 to 55 when we got the penalty, I thought we played quite well. We hit the bar, we hit the post. We obviously missed the penalty. We had 2 or 3 chances as well. And then we reacted to the penalty badly, well, missing the penalty badly because they scored straight away, and we did what we normally do: feel sorry for ourselves and do nothing for the rest of the match. That's the point, isn't it, Paul? I mean, it's all right saying we played well for basically half a game of football, but that's how bad we are at the moment, that we're trying to look at that for positive. I mean, they did play all right, and we'll talk about the referee in a moment, and he kind of grumbles with that, but still, the chances that we were missing and the way that we collapsed after that third goal just spoke more about us than what the positive spell did.
Yeah, it did. It did say a lot after that third went in, and there was definitely it was one of the few games they've played recently where there was a few positives. You saw some really really good bits, but as you mentioned at the top of it is that United have had some good 45 minutes, and that's all it's been. There's never been. We talked about they've played good over 90 minutes. There's never been that kind of control. When for a club of the stature of Manchester United, it's disgraceful in the manner in which they've played this season without dominate a game. Any game that they have won, they've only just got over the line. They haven't been comprehensive in any game they've played for me this season. I haven't worked on any game where I can say, oh, they should have won that by more. It hasn't been that way. They've just about got over the line, and you can't be like that if you want to be deemed a top side. You can't be like that. You can't be like that if you're Tottenham. You can't be like that if you're Arsenal. You've got to be better than that if you want to call yourself a top side, one of the biggest sides with a decent history. You can't be that way. You have to be better than that, to be honest. And if you're better, you've played fantastic football and you lose, people still understand and relate to you as a big club and just turn and say, cool, we were lucky today. But there's more sides walking away saying they should have got something from United than United doing it, which is unbelievable that is happening now with Manchester United. People believe that they can go to Old Trafford and win. Brentford will believe that they can win at Old Trafford. So that's the situation they're in. Brentford will be going to Old Trafford for the first time in a competitive league game. I don't know where it goes, but I don't know if they've ever done it, if they've ever been there. I couldn't tell you that, but whatever it is, it's been a long time, and they will believe they will go there and they can win. And judging by their performances of late and their performance against Tottenham, I think they can as well, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I don't think United have got any rugby games that you can say that they're going to be comfortable in. We've got loads of comments coming in, guys, so bear with me as I go through them. I want to come to Jason's one about he said moaning out, or is it as a fullback when the centre backs keep changing? Now, Dallo, like I said, he didn't have a great game defensively. Neither did Telly, most certainly didn't. Is it an excuse for them? Not an even excuse reason, really, because I mean, it's not just changing the personnel, but Maguire keeps switching sides. I get at some point we've just written this season up, and so we've been trying different things. But is it difficult for a fullback? Is it difficult for Wan-Bissaka, Dallo, and Telles when the defenders at the side of him keep changing?
Of course it is. You look at all the sides, all the great sides that have won titles, won big competitions. The back four very rarely changes. And the problem is in today's football is certain managers think because they've got so many players, they've got to give them games. Yeah. I don't think you should really want to change back four. You shouldn't really want to change personnel on the pitch because continuity will give you success. I keep saying it. Continuity does make a positive difference, but people have got this thing because they can go out and have massive squads. They've got to use them all the time. If someone wants to come to you, a big squad, great. If they want to be there, but they can work hard to try and get in it. But if you've got someone who's doing a good job in there, don't change them. Why change it? And that's what, you keep, United have done that far too often. Varane pops in again, pops in for everyone to see he's there, wearing gloves in April in London. That's why they need a strong manager. What you doing? You're a centre half. What do you need gloves for? What are you going to do? You putting the bin bags out or something? What are you doing? I want Varane to look like a centre half, because at the moment, all he seems like is somebody who was being babysat by Ramos. Major disappointment to me. Not seen any authority at all. As I said to you before, Wayne, he is playing the game on the peripheral, showing no urgency with the ball, not taking any responsibility. He's on the peripheral. I wonder how much he really wants to be there, to be perfectly honest. Not seen enough from him. It might change with a new manager. He might turn around and do stuff with him and work with him to find out how much his heart is in it. But at the moment, his heart's not there. If you're talking about centre halves this season, the best centre half all season for Manchester over a season has been Lindelof. He hasn't been given enough games though. He's been left out because of the fact of people wanting to keep playing Harry Maguire when he's been poor. A strong manager would have left Harry Maguire out and made a decision, with Lindelof, who's honest and his game. But no, they haven't. So he's missed out on a bit of football. When he has played, he's always been steady. And I was one of those people calling him out a few times, and what he was doing, he was a little bit soft, a bit naive. But he's maybe one of those centre halves who needs help on the pitch sometimes, a bit of communication, someone to encourage him. But United haven't got that. Varane, all Varane's doing is encouraging the sale of gloves at this moment in time.
Yeah, and I won't be buying any, even me. More comments coming in. Patrick, morning guys, agree with Paul's Anfield analysis. How was it eroded so quickly? The narrative is that Ole rebuilt and restored the culture and DNA. Was it that strong if it crumbled so quickly? It seems easy for some to be blame Rangnick for the current malaise, but can he be accountable? With 5 months with inherited players, we just cannot seem to do the basics around positioning, defensive clearances, awareness, first touch, 5+ passes. Literally everything seems to have been deteriorated beyond belief. Help. Paul, the point is that really people did want to point at the manager in November and say that he was the major problem, but the reality is being exposed, right? And being called out even by players now that we know that there are issues there, and like it goes to show for me, and maybe I'm overstating this, but it goes to show the value of confidence and momentum in a football club, because confidence, momentum, and attitude, 3 things that are not to do with talent, are 3 things that have really damaged United season, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely correct on that part of it. But I look at and I think about, everyone talks about Ollie, and Ollie definitely transformed the club from where it was, and he did take a step forward, and maybe that naivety on his part of being a manager at that level, he didn't have the best behind him, to be perfectly honest. I think he went safe where he should have maybe been braver who he had behind him, because he had no experience behind him. And players are good at things like that. When they can see things, not strong people, they jump onto it. But if Ollie had been managing that team at the weekend, going to Anfield, those players all week would have known about that game, because he would have followed on from the way Sir Alex was. Because every time we had a game against a Liverpool, a Leeds, a City, or a European game, the boss would change. All of a sudden, everyone would tighten up on how they conducted themselves when he was around the training ground, because his mind was set about that game. We knew we didn't need newspapers bigging up the game. The boss told us how big the game was, because he wasn't laughing and joking with us and joining in things with us. His mind was set. He would have his little bits, walk around with bits of paper in his hand, and we'll be training and be looking, because that game's in his head, and we would know it as players. I don't think Rangnick wouldn't be that way, because he wouldn't get that. the same as maybe we wouldn't get about a Dortmund Bayern Munich game in his homeland. So he wouldn't be that way. He would know about Liverpool being in their position in the league, how well they've done under Klopp, but he wouldn't know what that game means. I didn't know until I was around pre that game, prior to going to Manchester. I didn't realise how big a game that was. I knew it was big, didn't realise how big and what it meant. So that's the difference. So a lot of those players would maybe have had a different attitude. Some of them could have just shrunk because the way they've been built around them via Ollie, but a lot of them, it might have helped them. But they went out there and the attitude, not even an attitude, I can't think of a word, but it wasn't good, Wayne. And then when you make the substitution and you're hoping that you're going to bring on two locals, the ones who really know about that game, who lived their life and understanding what that game's about, you bring them on, and I'm there shaking my head when he's bringing them on. I said to myself, I'm going to myself, why? Why is he bringing them on? Because if he's thinking they're going to make an impact because, they're Mancunians, I'm saying they're not going to. And I was right. It just wasn't going to happen. Jesse, he shouldn't be bringing Jesse on. Jesse's going. Yeah. Bring on a younger player. And when he did bring on a younger player, he was fighting for man in the match with Sancho. So I'm not going to. De Gea done brilliant. Again, he made saves, important saves. But if you're talking outfield, it was him, the young boy Hannibal, and Sancho. One coming at half time, I think one come on with 10 to 15 to go. They made an impression. So really, if I was imagining Sir Alex after that game, you wouldn't be playing. 8, 9 of those players would not play in the next game.
Yeah.
With a performance. There was, United have had some not good performances at Liverpool, some defeats. But I tell you what, not many people have walked away with a feeling that they've got now with a Manchester United at Anfield. Never before has that happened at all.
No, I'll tell you, one thing that was worse for me was the fact that, you having, first of all, I don't think Liverpool played particularly well. Second, they didn't have to play particularly well to beat us, and they still looked like they were world class, and we weren't making them work particularly hard. There was, I think I mentioned it somewhere that United for the first sort of 20 minutes played like when someone's playing FIFA on the PlayStation, they put the controller down and everyone's just stood still. That's what United like, especially the passing where they scored I think it was the first goal or the second goal the second one where we just stood still everywhere. Richard says, good morning. We've got a couple of comments in as well. Oh, this is just a comment. I don't really want to talk about this, but I do want to bring up the comment. Ben says that Rashford has apparently welcomed Ten Hag's appointment and will now consider signing a new and improved contract. If true, staggering attitude. Completely agree. I don't think we need to talk too much about that. Let's talk about the referee at Arsenal, Craig Paulson. Now, I'm not going to be blaming the referee for the defeat because United's attitude. Going 3-1 down, and the way that they defended means that they got what they deserved. But I've had to live with nearly 20 years as Arsenal fans, and I'm related to some through my in-laws. I've had to live that period of time with some of them completely going on about Mike Riley in 2004. I don't think that can anymore. I think we can retire that one because what Craig Paulson was up to with the weekend, I have no idea. Now, 2 penalty shouts for United in the first half. The handball one looks more clear than the push, and I don't think that the push was one. But then when they get one, that to me says ours was one. Xhaka possibly lucky to stay on, but the handball penalty not even checked. Fernandes definitely lucky to stay on, so let's not just say it's all about Arsenal. A couple of unbelievable fouls in and around the box from Arsenal players not given. But then when you add that into what you saw at Anfield, Paul, you've got now referees are having major influences in the top 4 and title race. And I'm not saying, look, United would have thrown away the top 4 anyway. I know it's gone now, but they would have done that anyway. They don't need the referee to do it. But surely the point of bringing him VAR was to remove this sort of stuff, and it's making it worse. Well, over this weekend in particular, it's making it worse because there are some massive errors that have been made. What did you make of what happened at Arsenal with the referee?
Well, I'm not a fan of Paulson. I'm not a fan of England either. Something England is another one who's using being a referee. He must have got bullied in school, so he become a referee, so he can use that. That's his yardstick now, being a referee because he got bullied at school. Every time I've watched these two referee, I watched Paulson at West Ham, where he gave a free kick to Liverpool when Salah fell over the edge of the box, and Trent Alexander, whatever his name is, scored from a free kick when it was nowhere near a free kick. Paulson is a very, very poor referee, and if you're a poor player, and you're having a bad time, you get left out. These referees are affecting quite a lot in football. They should be left out. They should be sanctioned. They should be taken out of games so they can understand it and they can over their attitude. And they are being questioned, referees, by everybody now at this moment in time. So something has to be looked into without a shadow of a doubt. Got the other referee, I was talking about him yesterday. It's John somebody, and I've forgotten his name. The short, the heavy one. I've forgotten what his name is. But I just think the referee. We're talking about changing things. They've got to maybe look at different referees, bringing in new referees who are fresh, who are going to be looking at everything, who haven't been tarred with a brush of reffing in this league for a long time, so they're not caught up in it with the ego. Bring ones in who want to make a name for themselves by doing it correctly. But at the weekend, it was. I don't know. Sometimes you thought, "Yep, is what they're doing. Let it go, play on." And other times it was stop. There's no consistency in the way they referee. They're either going to referee it and allow the men to be men, or they're going to make it as bad as it is, make it a game where like no contact, and at least people then are knowing that it's working, for both sides. But that game at the end of the day was a tale of two poor teams. One lacks creativity, the other one lacks a defence, that being Arsenal, who are poor. Arsenal's midfield has got a little bit more guile than Manchester United's, but not great. And what it boils down to is that the game was about the referee, because fortunately enough, you can't talk about the football because in general, overall, the football was poor, really, really poor. And if we have to say, that was the poorest performance I've ever seen from four fullbacks. Absolutely. Arsenal's left back, and I've seen him play before. He must be, and a good friend of mine who I saw, and I saw him the other night. So I saw him Saturday night. We was just like, honestly, he could not believe it, and he just said he is the poorest left back I've ever seen. He said I've ever seen in an Arsenal shirt, and he is absolutely terrible. Dalot was poor, Tellez was poor, Cedric poor, and that's where we're going to now. But we're looking at the standards of the Premier League. It's dropping as far as I'm concerned. If that's what we're seeing, people talk about greatness, and there isn't much great happening. How many good games do you see at a weekend now, Wayne?
Well, not when I watch United.
Yeah, but I mean, but again, it's the referees that can help if they let games flow. They don't let games flow. We look at the game yesterday afternoon, the late game. Referees have got to see that if a player's taking a mickey, I'll tell you what, give them a yellow card and face it after. Stand up for yourself. When you go in front of your board of referees, why do you do that for? Because he keeps falling down. He keeps trying to stop the game. It's ungentlemanly conduct, but really, in brackets, he's a cheat. And I'm fed up with it. He's killing the game, and I want to keep the game going. And that's what you've got to do. And the player, Rick Arlison, they've got to stop it. And because if referees can deal with that, you don't get a melee of players trying to hit each other all the time, slap each other, as I say, because no one's really going to throw a proper punch in football. They're not going to do it. They'll get together and chest and bouncing heads, but they won't do anything. So if you can stop it at source, when players are cheating, you will not get melees like that. Or the likes of Fabinho could have been seriously injured by Decore because he threw his toys out the pram because they never got a free kick because he knew his player was cheating. If you know your player's cheating, you pick him up. I went down. I think I said this before. I went down against Notts County in my debut. I've gone down. I'm knackered. I've got a bit of cramp. It's my first ever game, and I'm down there. Someone's telling me, and Brian Robson just said to me, "Are you all right?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, get up then." And he went, and I went, "Oh God!" And I got up, and it's just wrong. So the players are as much to blame as the referees.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Without doubt. And United again probably didn't help themselves, but yeah, you're definitely right with the Everton thing yesterday, especially with the young lad who went down a couple of times very easily before the penalty, like the boy who cried wolf. I mean, we all wanted Everton to get that penalty. Well, anyone who's watching this podcast would, but yeah, boy who cried wolf a little bit there. I still feel uncomfortable, even though United, as bad as they've been and as culpable as they are in their own fall this season, still. Some of that refereeing on Saturday was just bizarre. So United, before they play Brentford, Old Trafford, they've got Chelsea at Old Trafford on Thursday night, Paul. United, very gracefully this season, have been that team that if a team's in a bad run of form, they play United and then they sort themselves out. Even Arsenal, they've been in a bit of a rut before they went to Chelsea and then obviously battered us. Chelsea obviously had a bit of a sticky one against Arsenal, and then they crept through against West Ham. They're going to be full of not necessarily confidence, but they're going to come to Old Trafford boldened by the fact that United are so bad at the minute, aren't they? They're going to be confident of getting all 3 points.
I think they like to believe and hope they can get 3 points, Chelsea, but I don't think there's much confidence there. There seems to be something gone wrong with Chelsea. I mean, it's quite the last 2 games, the cup final, it's the cup final, and the game yesterday. Just looking at Tuchel, and he's not as animated as he used to be. He sat down predominantly the whole of that game. Didn't get up. You normally see him being a bit like a Conte, orchestrating it and pulling people in and guiding and showing his disappointment, getting up, clapping them when something's good. He wasn't doing it. So I just wonder, is there an issue going on? Something going in the background with Chelsea at the moment? Their performances not as good. I don't know what's happening now. It's something disjointed. You look at the situation, you got 100 million centre forward who is playing exactly as what he is, really in theory, maybe £1,000 centre forward. He's a liability. And I just wonder if that's festering in his head as well, that he's got a player which I don't believe he wanted, but he's got him sitting there who he knows is not a good person to have sitting behind him on the bench. So, I'm not really. I don't know with Chelsea. Look at the way the defensively, they still were trying to give goals away, caught in possession, midfield. No great guile in there. Jorginho in there. The game playing very, very slow. So it could be the most boring game in the world. I did the first half yesterday. For me, I worked with a commentator called Alex Crook, who one of the main ones to talk sport, and we went back on air and we went to do a half time. We said we'll play back the half time to halftime highlights, and we said that's it. We didn't put anything out. And then he asked me, have I got anything to say about the first half? I said, all the words I said before they cut me off before they went into another break was, I really cannot afford to watch another half like that. And that was my analysis of the first half. Chelsea have hit a bad patch at this moment. United have got an opportunity to maybe beat them, but it won't be good because it's 2 teams who are playing very, very slowly.
One last question before we go for next week. Can Ten Hag use the Europa League next season as a chance to have a look at the whole squad and keep them fresh? First of all, Jason, I would say I was very, very optimistic that we're going to get into the Europa League the way that we're playing at the moment. Is that good? I mean, you would look at it as a plus point, right? Because of the fact that we've got a big squad, and it will be an opportunity to look at that.
I still think that the way he is, and he won't be the man I think he is. if he hasn't got an ego, that he's going to, if Manchester United in the Europa League, he's going to use it. He wants to win it.
Yeah.
He's going to want to win it. He's in his first season. It's not a case of, I'll just getting through, finish 8th or whatever, and just kind of go through and play young people and lose and get knocked out, but say, look who I brought in. No, he's got to win. He's 50 odd years of age. His first season in English football, the so-called best league in the world. He's going to want to make a massive point. So no, he's going to want to win it, not use it as seeing players or anything. If he's in it, he's going to be in it to win it. So no, the main thing, as far as I'm concerned, which I would love to happen, but I don't know if he's going to be allowed to do it. There's players out of contract, good. There's who can go. There's players who are in contract. They should be allowed to go. You should be able to, the club, speculate to accumulate, suffer what they've created. Is let players go and lose money on them. We might have to pay some of them off to go, but let them go. You don't want them festering around. You want them gone. There's been too much festering around, people earning money for nothing, sulking on social media because they're not playing when they've gone and played and they haven't really even shown an urgency to want to play. Get rid of 8, 9 players and go maybe slightly thinner and then add as you go along. Go thinner, and everyone then knows they've got a chance of playing regular football. Because you're Manchester United, you're a big club, doesn't mean you've got to have a big parade of players. A lot of players who are nicking money for doing nothing, happy to walk around with a Manchester United t-shirt on and go, look at me. You've got to get rid of them. They've got to go. It's as simple as that. Start as you mean to go on. And then if you start doing that, players who you're trying to bring to the club will go, yep, wow, yeah, we like that. Because you're not going to encourage top players if you've got a room full of people who they saw over the last 2-3 seasons being asked to run.
Yeah. Couple of comments in from Richard. He says, defo Paul Ten Hag can use the Europa League as a good route to winning something in his first season realistically. And I mean, why not? Yeah, absolutely. Even if Paul United should get to the quarterfinals, I agree. One last question from Jason. Squeezed one in just before we go. Are you looking forward to the Youth Cup final against Forest? Was that a great question? I mean, I'm not going to be there, unfortunately. So actually, on my birthday, I'm going to be in California for a couple of weeks. So I don't know if I'll be able to catch it. Paul, the Youth Cup is obviously a staple of United history. It's been quite promising for United. Probably the highlight of United season has been the reserve players who've been playing well. And I mean, back in the day, like 1953, when we won the title, when we won the Youth Cup, it was described as like a very successful season for United. Obviously, that's not going to wash at a senior level. It will be something great from it if United won it.
Of course it will do, without a doubt. I mean, they won it when I was there in '92, but they won it as well. So yes, it is. It's a big thing considering how this season's been for Manchester United. If they can win it, I mean, it'll be everyone will it'll be celebrated quite big. Yes, it's by the young boys doing well, but I think there's a lot of supporters out there who think, well, the future's got a little bit of a better chance now. Not all of them, as we know, are going to come through. Who are going to get the opportunity to play in the first team. But there's definitely something to build on. And as if they win it, getting to the finals, great, but winning it would make a difference. And I think everyone would expect Manchester United to win that against Nottingham Forest. That's the way you would look at it, as the levels of the club. So they need it, but the young lads will want to do it because they know how much that will mean to them. I remember there's a lot of lads I remember when they won it. Who was that? It was like Colin McKee, I think it was, and there was George Switzer. Do you remember George?
Yeah.
Ginger George, and great character. But there was those boys who never really got the chance, but they were just lads who. And when I've seen George over the years and everything, he still talks about it. He's still pride of place for him. He's a Salford boy, and he absolutely lives off the back of that, and he had every right to.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of United's proud tradition. Let's hope that they add to that against Forest. That'll incidentally probably be my first podcast back with Paul. We will be back in a couple of weeks. Until then, keep watching the content on the channel. Obviously, all the games are going to be reviewed and recovered. Until then, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we will be back soon.